In a non-conference neutral site game here at Footprint Center, the home of the Phoenix Suns, Arizona State falls to Northwestern 65-46. Nick Borgia of Devil's Digest, alongside publisher Hode Urbino. And Hode, ASU loses 3 straight. They finished the non-conference slate at 6-5 overall. And now we're standing in a locker room where the vibes were probably at an all-time low this season for this ASU team.
Yeah, without a doubt. The vibes were low at halftime when ASU only scored 13 points. This is the third time it happened already this season. Blowout losses to BYU and Mississippi State way in the beginning of the season really followed the same script. And because we were waiting in the media room for over 30 minutes for Bobby Hurley and Frankie Collins to address us, I can imagine there was a very hard discussion here post-game between Bobby Hurley and his players. When I say hard, not necessarily really yelling at each other or being contentious, but really trying to find what is wrong with this team. I mean, you just look at the two back-to-back losses to TCU and tonight to Northwestern, does absolute blowout losses. The TCU game, at least ASU shows some life for most of the first half and falters in the second half. And tonight against Northwestern, if it wasn't for Jemiah Neal actually bringing ASU to a 2-0 lead to begin the game, this would be the easiest wire-to-wire win that Northwestern has probably had in quite a while. And then you look at the loss before that at San Diego, not only a team that is much inferior than ASU to begin with, but a team that scored 61 points in the second half against Arizona State. So the Sun Devils' trademark is their defense, and when their defense is not working, then it does seem that starts a really vicious domino effect. And I think that really has been just a running theme in this 3-game losing streak. I asked Bobby Hurley after the game, I mean, aside from this loss being as lopsided as it is, are you disappointed that it came at the heels of a 20-point loss to TCU, that you didn't see your team respond from the opening tip? And Bobby Hurley, did agree that definitely was a disappointing factor. He basically looked like a coach that is still, really looking for answers. He did take full responsibility for this loss and the staff responsibility as well. Frankie Collins really brushed that off right away, and he said, no, it's the players that really need to execute. This is not all on the coaches. Now, you can pick a side, which element over here is more at fault, but the bottom line is Arizona State basketball is in really a very, very dark place right now.
So obviously the offense as a whole completely dominated by Northwestern, whether it was 3-point shooting, rebounding, free throw shooting, you name it, the final score makes that very obvious. So where did you see this offense really fall short the most tonight, Hode?
The offense is really going to be fueled by how well they play on defense. When ASU had that 3-game winning streak, which seems like a million years ago, they were scoring over 20 fast break points on the regular. Tonight, I believe they had 6 or 8 fast break points. I think Northwestern actually is a team that had more fast break points than them. So their struggles on the defense really affected the offense, and Bobby Hurley and Frankie Collins, for that matter, also said that really cannot happen. If things are not going well on defense, you can't let the offense to suffer as such. But ASU, we know, has an issue with a lack of inside presence. I mean, that injury to Sean Phillips, we knew it was significant when it was announced, but I don't think maybe even the most pessimistic ASU fan could realize what the magnitude the injury has done, because you really have no inside presence whatsoever. I mean, I know guys like Alonzo Gaffney and Brian Salabange are trying, but they're just not really getting the job done. And that's not only scoring in the paint, that's also blocks, that's also rebounding. I mean, those are just running themes that we see with Arizona State in this 3-game losing streak. I just feel that when they cannot really penetrate the paint with any consistency, and maybe it's hard for a guy like Jose Perez, who really lives by that mid-post moves, Now that he faced more formidable opponents like TCU and Northwestern, he really can go to that signature move of his. And I'm sure that those teams, to their credit, did some very, very effective scouting and really took Jose Perez, I feel, just totally out of this ASU offense for the last few games. You see a game like TCU where Adam Miller, first game plays for ASU and then plays great, but you think that would have a positive effect on guys like Jemiah Neal and on guys like Frankie Collins, maybe even Jose Perez, and that really doesn't come to fruition. Tonight you had a game against Northwestern where nobody really was playing well. Frankie Collins was the only player in double figures with 10 points. But if you really can't have the inside-outside game, if you really can't have Jose Perez have his mid-post moves to generate anything, so now you're just really living and dying by the jump shot, and the jump shot just was not falling for ASU at all. I know that basketball does have a lot of strategy, does have a lot of scheming, but ultimately I think maybe in some ways it's more simple than a lot of other sports. The ball has to go in the net, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't matter how late at night you stay up trying to draw plays and things like that. It's just that's not going to work. So the ASU offense right now is really suffering, and to my earlier point, I just feel like they're just allowing the struggles on defense to affect the other end of the court. That's just really bad news for this team right now.
Yeah, I think that's the key point that you mentioned, is how the defense typically sets up the offense with its Arizona State team. And we've seen plenty of games at DFA in our time this season where there's been a slow start on offense, and then the second half comes around, and the ASU defense with that full court press is what saves the day. But Northwestern had all the answers to that today, and the ASU defense was not able to feel the offense whatsoever.
Yeah, you look at Northwestern, they scored 65 points, 30 points in the paint, 9 3-pointers. That almost makes up the entire 65 points that they scored tonight. So you talk about the lack of inside-outside game for ASU. That was really Northwestern's bread and butter tonight. They were just shooting threes almost, at an unconscious rate, especially in the first half, and really just having their way in the paint, because again, there's just no inside presence to really slow them down whatsoever. And again, I was just having that symbiotic relationship between a struggling offense and a struggling defense. They just kept on affecting each other back and forth all night long for ASU. I mean, we did see fight. I think in the second half was somewhat better. I know the scoreboard's obviously not going to show it, but just because they dug themselves such a huge hole in the first half, trailing 36-13, even if you play a decent second half, again, you're not going to have a whole lot to show for it on the scoreboard, not a whole lot to show for it on the stat sheet. But I just feel that really on defense, they just simply don't have answers. I mean, sure, it has to do with the lack of inside presence. Sure, it has to do with not being able to close out effectively on three-point shooters. I mean, if it sounds really like a broken record, because it is, and that's really what we've seen in a lot of ASU losses this year, and even in some victories. Those are some elements that really do affect the Sun Devils. But like you said, Nick, they're able at some point, especially in the second half, to crank up the defense and just erase all those shortcomings that really plagued them. But I just feel that as the competition gets tougher and tougher, and I give credit to Bobby Hurley for always scheduling a really tough slate of games in the non-conference, because that can help you if you are going to be on the bubble for the NCAA tournament. But I think also when you have so many tough games on your non-conference schedule, and you have all the shortcomings that ASU is still not able to figure out, that's something that definitely comes back to bite you. And Northwestern, unfortunately for ASU, is one example of many they already have seen in this somewhat young season.
So there's now a break for ASU basketball as they prepare for that conference schedule. And we just heard from Bobby Hurley that he and the coaching staff are going to find out a lot about this team in the coming days. There's so much to fix. There's so much to work on. There's so much to look at. Where do you see this team going from here as they get ready for that conference, that last Pac-12 conference slate?
Well, we mentioned all the X's and O's, if you will, that are wrong with this team, but I just think mentally there's a lot this team needs to improve on. When Bobby Hurley talks about lack of chemistry, teammates not really being, happy for each other succeeding. And again, I'll go back to that TCU game. I mean, Adam Miller, absolute breakout party. Fans waited for him so long for him to play, and he plays well and starts on fire. why does not that really just have a domino effect on the rest of the team, and this team absolutely surges and just finishes that game against TCU at halftime? And I know TCU is a better team, probably even a much better team than ASU, but when you see a player like Adam Miller succeed, you really thought it's going to have such a positive trickle-down effect, and it just never happened. And I think what the most disturbing but very honest comment about Bobby Hurley is that this team, as much as it fights, when it gets punched in the mouth and gets punched in the mouth repeatedly, and again, we saw it a lot in the last 3 games, it just does not have an answer. So the mental toughness for this team, which already is suffering, as I mentioned, from the physical lack of physical toughness in the paint, that's just a really bad combination right now. I mean, maybe X's and O's can somewhat be fixed, but when you talk about just lack of toughness, not being able to respond, you talk about lack of chemistry, lack of cohesiveness, and I know that there are a lot of newcomers on this team, and I know you really can't compare it to last year's team when you had the Cambridge brothers and Warren Washington, which knew each other very, very well, and really decreased that element of, okay, it's going to take us time to get used to playing with each other. But still, with all that in mind, I don't think anybody expected ASU really to be at such a low spot that they were right now. There have been some more valleys than peaks right now, and each valley is really like a death valley for ASU right now. So again, I know there are some very obvious basketball 101 elements that need to be fixed, but can all the mental aspects be fixed and really be fixed in short order for Pac-12 play? I really don't know about that. I don't think the Pac-12 conference is really daunting basketball-wise, not to look too ahead, but Big 12, wow, that is going to be not a fun time if Arizona State cannot really improve as a program. But here they are opening Pac-12 play at a road game at the Bay Area. I'm really cautious to say anything about winnable games for ASU, the way they're playing right now, but there could have been much tougher starts for Pac-12 play than to start against Stanford and against Cal. So if ASU can somehow really fix, maybe not everything, but most of the things, I think they have opponents that they could show that progress effectively, because it's not like they're traveling to the LA schools or even to the mountain schools. So we'll see if those fixes become effectively for ASU, because it's obviously going to be paramount. This is not the way they wanted to go into the Christmas vacation, but more importantly, how they're going to come out of this Christmas vacation is really going to determine a lot, because if this team does not start stringing wins, this season is going to be over before it even started.
All right, Hode. Well, thank you so much for your insight, and I want to take a quick second here to thank you formally for everything that you've done for me and the Digest fans and subscribers, all the support they've given me. It's my last time up here as a member of Devil's Digest, and although ASU fans might not have gotten what they were looking for tonight with an ASU victory, we still had an awesome time out here at the Suns Arena covering this game. I got to shoot on the baseline on the Suns floor, which is super cool. So I just want to thank you for all the experiences you provided me with and all the fun I've been able to have as a member of this Devil's Digest team. I'm graduating, I'm moving on to new things, but it's been a heck of a ride, Hode, so I want to thank you for that. But for those of you at home, do not worry, the coverage is not going anywhere. I might be leaving, but the top of the line Devil's Digest coverage is still going to be coming at you at DevilsDigest.com. Drop a follow at Devil's Digest on Twitter. For one last time, my name's Nick Borgia. That's Hode Urbino. We appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next time.